It's your girl Amanda, and we are back with another episode of Thompson and Mandy's Entertainment Reviews. Sorry, getting them mixed up. So for this episode, we are actually reviewing King from Queens, the Run DMC story. It's a documentary basically about the story of the legendary '80s group Run DMC with Jam Master Jay, Rev Run, and DMC. His name is Daryl McDaniel, but they call him DMC. It was released on Peacock. It actually came out last year. It was in my Peacock saves, and I was meant to watch it, but I just never got around to it until now. So I did enjoy the documentary for the most part. Like any other documentary, there was like boring parts to it, and I know when a part in a documentary gets boring, I start just like flipping through my phone and stuff. So there were a couple instances where I did pick up my phone and just did not pay attention to the documentary. But I actually liked part three the most because that's when they were going into the 90s era of Run DMC. And I've been listening to Run DMC for years, and like I never really heard the stories of like what really happened in like the 90s, like before they broke up, like in the 2000s. So it was really cool just to hear from experience from DMC and Rev Run of what happened in the 90s, and it wasn't really discussed. So as you guys know, I do KWL for my documentary reviews. So I'll start with K. Run DMC is from Queens. I think Hollis, Queens to be exact. Joseph Simmons is the brother of Russell Simmons. So Rev Run is Russell Simmons' brother. If you guys remember, like what's that show, Run's House, where Russell Simmons did make like a couple appearances on there. And then also when Russell Simmons did MTV Cribs, when he had like that big house with Kamora Lee Simmons, Rev Run was on there as well. Rev Run was actually responsible for the popularity of shell toe Adidas. Mind you, my Adidas came out in like the 90s, or sorry, the 80s, sorry. Did I take that back? The 80s. And everybody had shell toe Adidas back in the 80s. And you know what's crazy? The 80s is like 45, almost 50 years ago, and people are still wearing shell toe Adidas. So that's the popularity and the influence that Run DMC had. Let's see. They were very popular in the 80s. They did a collaboration with Aerosmith for Walk This Way. One of my favorites, my all-time, well, not my all-time favorite Run DMC song, but it is one of my favorites. My actual favorite Run DMC song is Down with the King, and that one actually came out in like 1993, like 2 years before I came out, or came into this world. Well, I could say came out, because, you know, I came out of the womb. But yeah, Down with the King, 1993 is one of my favorites. Jam Master Jay, he was killed in 2002 in a recording studio. I kind of remember watching, like, I think it was, now this is way back in the day before like BET went all corporate and stuff, but I remember like BET had news, and I remember watching on BET Jam Master Jay's like crime scene, his body being like taken out of the like the recording studio and stuff, and DMC crying and Chuck D and all that craziness. So I remember watching it on TV as a kid that he passed away. Rev Run did a collaboration with Jagged Edge in 2001 with Let's Get Married, the remix, which is awesome because that song, like 25, 24 years later, is still being played at weddings. So, a cultural influence, if you will. Rev Run became a minister. Now, I know he's a minister, I just don't know, like, of which church or what type of church. And also Rev Run did Run's House from 2005 to 2008, which created the spinoff of Daddy's Girls with Angela Simmons and Vanessa Simmons. And lastly, they are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think they were inducted like a couple years ago or so. I think it's like 2023 they were inducted. If anybody knows the actual year, it wasn't that long ago, I know for a fact. So we're going to go into Want to Know. And again, I've been listening to Run DMC like literally my whole life, so I didn't want to know much, or I didn't have much questions. So my first Want to Know was more about the breakup of Run DMC. They broke up like in the early 2000s. I was a kid. I really didn't understand much about like bands breaking up until like B2K did it like 2 years later. I wanted to know Down with the King recording stories. Down with the King is also the name of the album, so keep that in mind. What has DMC been up to? We know what Rev Run is up to, but what has DMC been up to? And lastly, how is Jam Master Jay's legacy being continued in 2025? So, as I always say, my learn may or may not answer my questions, but it is something I learned. So, the first learned I got from this documentary was that it's the first rap group played on MTV. So, we all know like Michael Jackson was like the first pop act, but I didn't know that Run DMC was the first rap act. Hollis Queens had a white flight. I didn't know that. I know like a lot of the rappers came from Hollis. Not only um, Run DMC was from all Hollis. Did you guys know that Ja Rule is from Hollis too? I didn't know that. Let's see. Rev Run and DMC met in school, but they were in separate classes. That's a lot of like famous rapper stories start. Like they met in school, like, and then they grew up together. Russell Simmons is older than Rev by 7 years. I thought that was pretty cool because me and my brother are 7 years apart. I always thought that like Russell was probably 2 or 3 years older than Rev, but it's seven, so I was wrong all these years. Curtis Blow was managed by Russell Simmons. Rev Run used to DJ for Curtis Blow. Now I didn't know Rev Run was a DJ. I was watching an old episode of Run's House a long time ago, right? And he had turntables in his house. Now I was thinking like, okay, he has turntables because he's a legendary hip hop act, but turns out he was an actual DJ at 15 years old, and didn't really DJ anymore after that because my next fact was that he broke his arm playing basketball. DMC went to St. John's University and studied business management. I do love an educated rapper. Sucker MC. I love that song. And I didn't know that people like really doubted that song when it first came out. Insane. It's an awesome song. It's in my Apple Music. Um, Early Run DMC style was very ugly and very corny. So this was before they were wearing Adidas. They were basically wearing like blazers and I guess church shoes from the pictures I saw. And it kind of reminded me of like Dr. Dre's situation with Alonzo and I forgot the World's Class Wrecking Crew, where Dr. Dre was just dressed like a weird like doctor or whatever, and but now you see his style like it's I guess a monotone style, if you will. So yeah. Rick James had beef with MTV. I didn't know that. I know Rick James was like an older act, but I never knew about his beef with MTV to get his music played on there. DMC, he did not like the fame, which is totally understandable because who likes fame? Because it's so much pressure. And I guess the pressure just really got to him. Russell Simmons used to smoke angel dust. Now that I know. That part I know. But this part I didn't know is that he gave lyrics and was never credited for them. So I didn't know Russell Simmons was a songwriter. I always thought he was like a producer and like a manager, but I didn't know he was a songwriter. Run DMC had an Adidas commercial. Again, the popularity of the shell toe Adidas. I've never seen a commercial. I just always knew about my Adidas, and then they played it, which was pretty cool. Leor Cohen was Run DMC's road manager. So Leor Cohen is a very familiar name. He's a big executive in the hip hop business. But I never knew his start. I just always heard his story of him migrating to America and then boom, he's an executive. So I didn't know he was like DMC's road manager. Run DMC got $1 million deal with Adidas. Now we look in 2025 and like, oh, $1 million, that's not much, blah, blah, blah. But in the 80s, that was a lot of money for people, and especially a rap group like Run DMC. And I hope, today they still get paid from their popularity from Adidas because people are still wearing like shell toe Adidas. I want a pair of shell toe Adidas right now, but I just don't know where I could find a pair. Run DMC had a beef with LL Cool J. I never knew about this beef. I always knew LL Cool J had a beef with that rapper Cannabis, but I never knew it was with Run DMC. But I guess they're cool now because LL Cool J was in the documentary, so I guess there's no tension there. There was some tension during the recording of Walk This Way. For a record that is seems so fun to listen to, I didn't know, like, you couldn't, I mean, I guess you can't really tell, but it was some tension. Like, the video that they showed in the documentary, yeah, it was some tension in there. Let's see. Run DMC met Michael Jackson with Bubbles. I wish they had a picture of that. I don't remember seeing a picture in the documentary, but they did meet Michael Jackson. There was violence at a Run DMC concert in LA. Now, that shocked me because every time I see Run DMC, I always sense them as like one of the cleaner acts, if you will. But it was violence in LA because of the Crips. So it was during the late 80s too, during like the drug years and stuff. Run DMC did the new Jack Swing sound, and that sound came out in like 90, 91. And they played some of the music in the documentary, and I just did not like it. I didn't like it at all. Um, and then going into the 90s, they changed their style from Adidas to like the typical baggy 90s style, which it was cool to see. Like, they looked like they were dressed in like baggy sweatpants and like Bulletproof Us or something. Rev Run, and then as the documentary proceeded, it was revealed that Rev Run was a deacon. I didn't know he started as a deacon. I just always thought he was a pastor. And it also reminded me of how record labels worked. Record labels called the shots. They told the artist what to drop, when to drop, what to sound like, what to dress like, all that stuff. And DMC hated it. And I guess like now he would really like like the more independent route that rappers are doing these days. He would love that, but that's how things worked back in the day. Like, if you watch those pop stars and stuff and how their images, that's all the record label. So yeah. DMC had an addiction and he almost killed himself by jumping off the roof. So he was addicted to alcohol and drugs, and he almost killed himself because he just had enough. Also, I wanted to add that when they proceeded to like the end of Run DMC, they showed Jam Master Jay's wife. She is so pretty, by the way. She's a really pretty woman. Jam Master Jay was described as humble and generous. Like again, Jam Master Jay died when I was very young, so I didn't know a lot about him until I really started researching hip hop. And he was very a humble dude, hosted barbecues in his neighborhood and stuff. And honestly, like, I don't see that from rappers these days. I don't. So, he had a studio in Soho in New York City, but he wanted to be closer to his people, his home, so he moved it to Queens, and that's where he was killed, unfortunately. And then at the end, they did say that all three suspects in Jam Master Jay, they are still awaiting trial. Now, I remember when they were arrested, but I didn't know, like, I think that was like 2 years ago. 2 years ago that they were arrested, but I didn't know they're still, awaiting trial. Run DMC retired after 2002. It was announced at Jam Master Jay's funeral. Sarah McLachlan's Angel saved DMC's life, and I think that was very sweet, even though I do find that song like super annoying. Like, they play those ASPCA commercials at like 4 o'clock in the morning, but hey, it saved his life, so I think that was very great. And DMC and Rev Run, they started performing again in 2003. So, because they were, put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I do give this documentary a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I did like the cameos from LL Cool J, Eminem, Ice Cube, MC Lyte, Big Daddy Kane, and Fredro Starr. The visuals were cool. Like, they had a lot of graphics when they were introducing people. They showed their home turfs, like, them at home with their families. Also, they showed their childhood homes. And then it did show the video of the recording of Walk This Way, which I've never seen before. And also Rev Run's preaching, because again, I don't know what church he preached for, but it was a video of him preaching. I disliked how his wife found out her husband was killed, that she got a phone call and they said they took him away, and also cried about Jam Master Jay. I try not to cry at documentaries, but it is what it is. So that is my review for King from Queens. Again, it is on Peacock. You can check it out. And thank y'all for listening. Like, share, subscribe. Peace.